This is Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States and the Democrat presidential nominee for 2024. After months of avoiding sit-down interviews, Kamala's campaign tried to switch things up. Over a period of 2 weeks, VP Kamala appeared on Howard Stern, The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, the Call Her Daddy podcast, All the Smoke with Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson, The Shade Room, whatever that is, and Roland Martin for some reason.
There's this whole, I talked with somebody once who said, if you just look at where the stars are in the sky, don't look at them as just random things. If you just look at them as points, look at the constellation, what does it show you? So you just outlined it, Roland. What does it show you?
Yeah, no one knows. She also appeared on The View, where she inadvertently made national headlines.
If anything, would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
So 2.5 months after announcing that she was taking Joe Biden's place on the Democrat presidential ticket and vowing to turn the page and chart a new way forward, Kamala Harris proclaimed that she wouldn't have done anything different had she been president. Makes sense to me, what's your problem? So after months of being criticized for not doing serious sit-down interviews, Kamala Harris and her handlers decided that it was time for Harris to chart a new way forward and be interviewed on Fox News, which in itself is noteworthy, considering that Harris has never done an interview with Fox News, and her interviewer Bret Baier did not hold back.
How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right
just a number. Do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point. Okay, the point is that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
Like most Democrat politicians, Kamala Harris is attempting to conflate border security with immigration policy, saying that we have a broken immigration system.
And when you came into office, your administration immediately reversed a number of Trump border policies. Most significantly, the policy that required illegal immigrants to be detained through deportation, either in the U.S. or in Mexico. And you switched that policy. They were released from custody awaiting trial. Looking back, do you regret the decision to terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
So instead of taking responsibility for actions that her administration took that allowed millions of illegal immigrants to flood the border and enter the country, Harris turned to the same old tired playbook.
The first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the...
Yes, ma'am. May I finish responding, please? But you have to let me finish,
You
please.
had the White House and the House and the Senate,
I'm
and they
in the
didn't bring up
middle
that
of
bill.
responding to the point you're raising,
Okay.
and I'd like to finish.
Yes, ma'am.
But that bill wasn't about border security. It was a Citizenship Act that would have granted a pathway to citizenship for a minimum of 11 million people living in the United States illegally.
You said repeatedly that the border was secure. When in your mind did it start becoming a crisis?
I think we've had a broken immigration system transcending, by the way, Donald Trump's administration, even before. Let's all be honest about that.
But everyone knows that under Trump, the border was the most secure it's ever been. The Biden-Harris administration took actions to reverse every single thing that Trump accomplished.
We recognized from day one that, to the point of this being your first question, it is a priority for us as a nation and for the American people. And our focus has been on fixing a problem.
That right there is why Americans do not trust Kamala Harris on the issue of immigration. And it's why Donald Trump is going to win in November.
There were
That's how the
90
system
plus
works.
executive orders that were rescinded in the first days. Many of those were Trump border policies. You frequently talked to the Border Patrol Union for support of that bipartisan bill, and they did. They supported it. But they also just endorsed Donald Trump and said, you've been, quote, a failure with border security. Why do you think they said that?
I think they're frustrated, and I get it. They want support.
Which you're not giving them, Kamala. And the Border Patrol Union knows that Trump and a Republican-controlled Congress will stop the bleeding and will give them all of the support they need.
There's a lot of people that look back at what you said at 2019 when you first ran for president. And there have been changes, and you've talked about some of them. When it comes to immigration, you supported allowing immigrants in the country illegally to apply for driver's license, to qualify for free tuition at universities, to be enrolled in free health care. Do you still support those things?
Listen, that was 5 years ago, and I'm very clear that I will follow the law. I have made that statement over and over again, and as Vice President of the United States, that's exactly what I've done, not to mention before.
I will follow the law is not a legitimate answer because, as we all know, as president, she could advocate for and sign new laws. Pro tip, Republicans, make sure that you vote like the fate of the country depends on it. So, to everyone's amusement, Bret Baier forced Kamala Harris to watch a Trump campaign ad directly attacking her for one of her policy positions.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners, every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
So are you still in support of using taxpayer dollars to help prison inmates or detained illegal aliens to transition to another gender?
I will follow the law, and it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed. You're probably familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available on a medical necessity basis to people in the federal prison system.
Kamala Harris is lying. The report she is referring to is from the New York Times, which pointed to this 2018 budget memo from the Federal Bureau of Prisons that states the BOP delivers medically necessary health care to all offenders housed in BOP-managed facilities. When it comes to offenders who self-identify as transgender, medical care may include pharmaceutical interventions, hair removal, and surgery if individualized assessment indicates surgical intervention is applicable. So basically, the law states that a prisoner's surgery must be paid for if it is deemed medically necessary, not paying for your new vagina. And for Kamala to say that these special operations were available under Trump is false. Case in point, a federal inmate, Kenneth Ray West, aka Christian Noel Iglesias, aka Christina Nicole Iglesias, has been serving a federal prison sentence and had been requesting gender-affirming surgery since at least 2016. West went to prison for the 1993 crime of mailing threatening letters to an Oklahoma County judge, where West wrote, "I have decided to be your judge and jury and sentencer. And what I mean by that is that I will kill you." In addition, in 2005, West pled guilty to threatening to use a weapon of mass destruction, i.e. sending a letter to British authorities stating, "You have now been exposed to anthrax. Die, 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 die. Anthrax is gonna get you." West also has a history of sending letters threatening to kill or maim federal judges in Oklahoma, Ohio, California, and Florida, so that's fun. But thanks to a lawsuit brought by the ACLU on behalf of Christina, this terrorist was the first person ever to receive gender-affirming surgery while in federal custody. This includes vaginoplasty, permanent facial hair removal, facial feminization surgery, and breast augmentation. Your tax dollars hard at work. But when the ACLU brought the lawsuit in 2019, the Bureau of Prisons under the Trump administration fought against it. The lawsuit was settled in 2022 under the Biden-Harris administration, and the surgery went forward in March 2023 under the Biden-Harris administration. And Kamala is going to sit there and claim that these surgeries were available under Trump, but if that's true, then why did an inmate feel the need to file a lawsuit?
And I think, frankly, that ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing stones when you're living in a glass house.
The Trump aides say that he never advocated for that prison policy and no gender transition surgeries
you know what? You got to take responsible for what happened in your
presidency.
administration.
Says the woman who hasn't taken any responsibility for anything that has ever happened under her administration.
No surgeries happened in his presidency.
It's in
so
black and white.
would you still advocate for using taxpayer dollars for gender reassessment
I will
surgeries?
follow the law, just as I think Donald Trump would say he did.
You would have a say as president.
Like I said, I think he spent $20 million on those ads.
Because that is the most effective ad of this election cycle. It shows that Kamala Harris cannot and will not defend her past statements about anything. She cannot be honest about her policy positions or her values, which means that she should never have the privilege of standing behind the seal of the President of the United States.
Why do you think more people say they trust him on the economy than they trust you?
I think that when you look at an analysis of our plans for what we would do as President of the United States, it has been clear to those who study and understand how economic policy works that moving forward, because I do believe the American people are ready to turn the page on the divisiveness and the type of rhetoric that has come out of Donald Trump. People are ready to chart a new way forward, and they want a president who has a plan for the future and a plan that is sound and will strengthen our country.
So Kamala is basically saying that Americans trust Trump to better handle the economy because the American people don't understand economics.
More than
People
70%
are
of people
exhausted.
tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade,
But you're
people
the
have
lever of
become.
power.
But listen,
So Bret Baier points out that 79% of Americans believe the country is on the wrong track. Kamala Harris, who is the sitting vice president in the current administration, says it's Trump's fault.
Why is half the country supporting him? Why is he beating you in a lot of swing states? Why, if he's as bad as you say, that half of this country is now supporting this person who could be the 47th president of the United States?
listen.
Are they stupid? What is
God,
it?
I would never say that about the American people.
Meanwhile,
What else do we know about this population, 18 through 24? They are stupid. That is why we put them in dormitories, and they have a resident assistant. They make really bad decisions.
And on that revealing note, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time, if there is a next time.